for the Truth in Taxation public hearing is to inform the public that the district will be levying tax to raise 1.8 million in adjacent ways funds. The adjacent ways funds will be available for projects associated with the construction and expansion of schools and sites. This is a formal procedure the district has followed for many years, and this request is the same amount as the last fiscal year. This is in compliance with Arizona Revised Statute 15-905.01. The tax rate for this is 0.2214 cents, which equates to $22.14 per 100,000 of assessed valuation. At this time, if there's anybody in the public who wishes to speak to the board, they can. Is there anybody here wishing to speak or make comments? Not seeing any, then we will close this meeting. Do I have a motion to close this meeting?
Motion to approve as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Bester.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. King. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not seeing any of the motion carries. We will now go to our next meeting, which is the 2024-25 proposed budget hearing. The purpose of this public hearing is an opportunity to present the FY 2024-25 proposed budget for consideration of the residents and taxpayers of the Vail School District and to meet all reporting requirements established by the Arizona Auditor General's Office. This budget was presented to the governing board on June 25th, 2024, and will be presented during the regularly scheduled board meeting tonight for adoption. Is there anybody who wishes to make a comment on this item? Not seeing any, then I will accept a motion to close this meeting.
Motion to approve is.
I'm going to give this one to Mr. King. Do I have a second?
You have a second.
Thank you. I'll call for the vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not seeing any, the motion carries. We will now move on to our regularly scheduled meeting. I will open this meeting at 7:05. And I'd like to invite you to join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We now have the approval of minutes for the regularly scheduled meeting on June 25th, 2024. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. King. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not seeing any, the motion carries. We'll move on to our general functions section. The first item is staff, student, and community recognitions. Mr. Kruth.
Thank you, Secretary Pratt and members of the board. We have a few recognitions this evening. I'd like to call Miss Darcy Mentone up first, followed by Mrs. Middleton, and then Miss Rebecca Marsh. Mrs. Mentone, the floor is yours.
Mr. Kruth, Mrs. Pratt, members of the board, tonight I would like to thank and recognize a couple of people. So as you know, I've been away for a while caring for my dad. And in our department, you guys all know that we have the amazing Stacy and the amazing Kendra. And they were just so fantastic while I was away. They really kept things moving. They were just absolutely amazing and held down the fort like so well that I'm not even sure you guys need me anymore. So thank you, thank you so much to Stacy and Kendra for being there during a really hard time. And I just like to recognize them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Mentone. Mrs. Middleton, followed by Mrs. Marsh.
Clerk Pratt, Superintendent Cruz, and members of the governing board. I have a few recognitions for tonight. The first one is Tommy Silva. He is a security monitor on our campus. And for the past 2 summers, Tommy has volunteered to come onto campus and paint different areas of our campus to spruce it up for the kids and just volunteer.
He painted the restrooms for all of the students last summer. And this past summer, he's painted hallways inside all of our houses, just simply to clean them up and spruce them up for the kids. And he's just a servant-hearted, kid-loving guy. And we're just really grateful to have him. The second person that I wanted to recognize tonight is Steve Schween. Many of you know that Steve Schween hosts conditioning program over the summer. Every day he serves hundreds of our kids on our campus, Monday through Thursday, during the month of June and July, to get them prepared to participate in our powerhouse athletic programs. But the piece that I love most about the work that Schween does over the summer is he's really creating a bridge for our incoming freshmen. They come into that weight room 4 days a week and spend an hour, and they're forging friendships and becoming familiar with our campus. And it eases their anxiety before the first day of school. And I love that investment that he makes. I want to recognize also Mark Green and Rich Jaredick for their work. Last week, Cienega High School had a power outage across the site. And those two men jumped in and did a great job of coordinating not only with me and my staff, but also with outside companies. They did a great job of communicating with all of us that were involved. And I'm just really grateful for how they just jumped in and handled that huge project. And then last, I wanted to recognize Darcy and Kendra, because those two ladies, whenever there's something that pops up on social media or in the news agencies that we might need some support with, or they want to shine a spotlight on, they're first to jump up and help us to make sure that our schools and our students are spotlighted in a positive way. And I just appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Middleton. Ms. Marsh.
Good evening, Clerk Pratt, Superintendent Cruz, the members of the board. Tonight, I'd like to recognize Desert Sky Night Custodians, Anthony Seveda, William Martinez Hernandez, and Sandra De La Torre, just for their dedication and deep cleaning the campus throughout the summer to make sure that it's ready to roll for all of our staff and students that have either returned this week or are returning next week. They're just so helpful, and anytime you ask them for anything, they will jump to do it. So we're super grateful for the group that we have. I'd also like to recognize our lab tech, Michelle Francis. She spent a long time this summer cleaning up all of those Chromebooks. You can imagine middle school hands and things, stickers and whatnot all over them, just cleaning them up, making sure that they are ready to roll, rebranding them, putting all the correct labels on them for the entire school year. So we're super grateful for her. Also like to recognize her partner, our awesome student technology coordinator, Daniel Hughes. He just comes in and disappears, and it's because he's in classrooms, making sure that our tech is being serviced, worked on, ready to roll for when our teachers return. He also spent some time today assisting with a Beyond Textbook conference at our site, and they were very grateful for him as our lead. Also, our office manager, or as we call her, the Queen of Desert Sky, Tina Marie. Just her open door during summers, because we all kind of take turns leaving the office to try to get away a little bit. And she's there for any new staff members that might be coming in to get them their keys. She's also there to meet with prospective families or people that just want to tour the campus because you're feeling a little nervous before the beginning of the year. And so we're just grateful that she is always giving herself to our community. Also, our student achievement teacher, Stacy Cousins. What that woman doesn't do, would be easier to say than what she does do for our campus. Her hands are in everything on that campus, whether it's things to do with summer school, scheduling, ensuring that the kids are at the proper places. You don't put this student with that student because they won't be most successful. Let's make sure that we're setting them up. And she spends evenings at home just getting things done, and the times that I get emails from her, I get sad. But it's just because she wants things to be right. And last but not least, I want to recognize our rock star registrar, Kristen Hill. If you've never met this woman, she is probably the most kind and genuinely positive person you'd ever get to meet. We're super fortunate that her desk is right in the front office and she is there to greet our parents alongside our clerk, but she just spent this summer making sure that the input of the schedules are correct. When people call to say, hey, I need to enroll my kid because I hear they all start super early, she jumps on it and makes sure that it's right. And what a great first face for our families to get to meet. So we're very grateful for her. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Marsh. Just like to continue with a district-wide recognition. I'm often asked, what do you do with your summers? And which is an interesting thing, seeing we have a very short summer here. And the truth is that June is quite busy for us in regard to planning, hiring, budget, those kinds of things. But there is a noticeable shift in speed around the rest of the district. And that's nice for folks to experience. And as Mrs. Marsh and others have alluded, people step away in that time period. And I'm grateful that they can do that. A week ago Monday, however, we went from first year to fifth year around here as new teacher induction got underway with roughly 90 K-8 teachers and began again about 35 high school teachers. And we are full gas and have been since that time period. On your table, you have a new teacher guide, which is what we give to all of our new teachers, as well as a calendar for them, a desk calendar for them, including right up front, our motto and mission statement, guiding principles, and contact information. I call that to your attention because it takes just a boatload of planning to make new teacher induction happen from those who help prepare the materials. I want to thank them. I think I'm not going to attempt to do that by name because there are many people who do that. To those who present at NTI. Again, another boatload of people who do that work. And all of it is coordinated by Megan Nowlin, who leads NTI and organizes it and is now literally inducted generations of teachers in Vail now, and we're incredibly grateful to have her and her expertise do that. If for anybody that sat in on any portion of what she does, it's a labor of love, and she's incredibly good at it. So I just want to acknowledge all of our staff who are involved in making new teacher induction happen, and in particular under the leadership of Ms. Megan Allen. That's all we have for staff, student, community recognitions this evening.
Thank you.
Our next item is call to the public and acknowledgement of public requests to speak. Do we have anybody in the public who's wishing to address the board this evening? Doesn't look like we do, so we're going to move on to the next section, correspondence and reports. And the first item is superintendent report. Mr. Groot.
Thank you, President Ted. Thank you, Mrs. Pratt and members of the board. Just also want to mention that Monday starts our school year and we'll be off and running. And the following Friday, we'll be up and running with our high school. I was speaking with Mrs. Dabney this afternoon, and we are down to one teacher position that needs to be filled that would impact students. And that actually is because we this afternoon approved another kindergarten position to fill in where we're gonna be overcrowded at a elementary school. That position, along with 5 others, comprises 6 certified positions that are available, but the other 5 aren't directly impacting students on a day-to-day, in a classroom setting on a day-to-day basis. So we're really in good shape as we move forward, and it's just been, again, a boatload of work making that happen. As large as we are now, I think that's about as close to full staff as I think we will realize, as there's always just a little bit of turnover with the size we are, but just we're in good shape as we get ready to start the year on Monday.
Thank you. We will move on to the next item, which is board reports. Do any board members wish to make a report at this time? Mr. King?
Thank you. So last weekend, this week, today, as Superintendent Ruth alluded to, I got to attend day 1 of NTI. So, and I wanted to, again, parrot the shout out to Ms. Megan Nolan for all of the work that she puts in, as well as the generations of educators that she's actually worked with and actually brought up in her 35 years here in the district. So I wanted to thank her for that. I also get to meet over 100 new teachers that are from across the spectrum. So that's everything from the K-8 to the high school, the SPED teachers, all of them. And also seeing some of the ones who got hired in the middle of the year too. So it's actually there's a lot of energy, and some of the comments that you hear from teachers who came from other districts is like, and doing this last year and hear the same comments this year is like, I've never seen a superintendent, or I've never seen, a school board member. And then here they are on day one, and they're meeting almost all of the, if not all of the, district administration and staff, as well as board members. So it really does come as a shock. And they talk about these teachers are talking about the energies and the community. They actually feel that it's palpable. They want to be part of it. So I wanted to kind of bring that out there. So as well as we were running a little behind getting here tonight. So we attended the Andrada's freshman parents spaghetti dinner. So, and Principal Parks did a really good job over there talking to the freshman parent and bringing them into the community, talking about a little bit of expectations and everything else. One of the briefings that they had over there also came from Tucson PD. There was a police officer over there that talked about the social media threats and some of the impacts of making very, very poor as a student, or as, and also teaching parents how they could actually prevent things from down the line. So that's what I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. King. I also should have mentioned this at the beginning. We want to excuse President Tippett and Mrs. Anderson. They're both out of town with their families tonight. If there's no other board reports, we'll move on to the consent agenda. All items listed below are consent matters and will be considered by one motion at this time. There'll be no discussion of consent items. Any board member may remove an item from the consent agenda by request. Do any board members wish to pull an item? No. All items not accepted and approved as part of the consent agenda will be considered individually. Mr. Kruth?
Thank you, Mrs. Pratt. Members of the board, it's recommended that the Vail School District Governing Board approve all items on the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you. I'll accept a motion.
Motion to approve as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Bester.
Second.
Second by Mr. King. Thank you. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not seeing any, the motion carries. We'll move on now to old business. Our first item is the a la carte fee structure for families utilizing ESA funds. This is a study item. Mr. Kruth?
Thank you, Mrs. Pratt, members of the board. We studied this last time. However, because you weren't here, we wanted to make sure that we were continuing that process. And as I mentioned at that meeting, there's no fire burning under this issue. So we just want to make sure everybody's tuned in. I'll give a brief overview and then Mr. Hurley can jump in with some additional information. Fundamentally, this is an extension of things that we have done for families for years, and it's our value of providing high quality education to families in Vail, and also honoring school choice for them, and understanding that any option, a school option isn't the school option for all kids or families. Things have changed, however, with the advent of the empowerment scholarship accounts, whereas if a student was a homeschool student, that family simply registered with the Pima County School Superintendent's Office. They didn't receive any funding. They were then responsible for the education of their child, and we would partner with them if they wanted to for coursework, clubs, activities, and so on. If they participated in coursework or some of those other activities, we could then enroll them for that period of time and receive compensation from the state for the time that they were with us. That has changed with the advent of the ESA accounts, and families now can receive the funding that we would otherwise receive, which is, depending upon the student, the base amount is roughly $7,000, and it goes up from there. And then they can use that funding to purchase services for their child in their education. What we have seen, we've kind of been watching this over the last 2 years, is that there really isn't any homeschool family that doesn't take advantage of an ESA now. So they have that funding available to them. The other issue with that is if they do take a course from us now, we cannot collect those dollars in reimbursement because the state would consider that double dipping. And so we want to, so as we've moved forward, Mr. Hurley has been watching this in particular, and with some other districts, feel that it's appropriate to put forward an a la carte structure for to provide services to our families in alignment with what some of the actual costs are that we would incur, and also, frankly, what some of the costs are at a market value for some of the other clubs and activity pieces that a family might be choosing to purchase if they went to club athletics or music performances or some of those things. Not that we're at that level, but just consider that as another rail of the decision. So that's where we have come with this recommendation. I'm aware of at least one other district in the Phoenix area, Mesa, that's doing this. I'm not aware of any other PEMA school districts that are doing this. In fact, I'll just be frank, I think there's an aversion to it from most school districts to be able to have a desire to do this. That doesn't fit with who we are either. So that's where we are. So Mr. Hurley was actually, I think, in Santa Barbara when we did this the last time, but was listening to the board meeting and taking note on the questions that were asked. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Hurley from there to maybe fill in things I've missed or things that you heard that you want to also call attention to, Mr. Hurley.
Yes, I was vacationing in Santa Barbara, so I missed you terribly. I had a hoodie on and almost froze to death. Nice to be back and have that pump. So. But this is a new thing, and so we thought it's really great to have the chance to ask questions because it's new and there's lots of things going on. So I just want to go, there were some questions last time. I want to bring you back some answers to those and then to see if there's more questions that you do have. One of the questions was about early college and the students being involved in early college. And actually, one of the rules with ESSA is that they can just use the money straight to go to the community college. So they can, that's an allowable expense. So it really doesn't make much sense for them to join our early college where they can just go straight to PEMA. It would be cheaper for them to go straight to PEMA than to pay for the cost of one of our courses, but that's because we offer other experiences and supports and those things. So if they wanted to do that, we would welcome them and charge them the same fees high school, but the probable reality is that it's an allowable expense. The other one of the questions was, should all the sports be the same fee? And while we acknowledge in the district that there may not be as many fees associated with cross country as there are with football, it's kind of been our long-standing tradition that we just all sports are the same. We don't separate, so sport is sport is sport. So that was my thought here as well. The other question about sports was should there be a cap? We did look into that, and in our middle schools and high schools, there is a family cap. It's usually, or a student cap. Usually once you pay for 2 sports, we start discounting thereafter. We're going to look into that some more. I like the idea, but one of the strange things about this is just the funding is so different, right? They're paying us through class wallet, and then the money is going to follow straight to the sport or the class or the club. And so there's not really the general fund pot that it goes into like we do with other things. So we're trying to look into it to see if we can do something like that and how we can make it work. But it's something we do with our other sports for our traditional kids. So we're looking into it. Bring a recommendation. Probably we can come back next time for that. Another question, the last question was about out-of-district students. So the out-of-district special needs students in particular, there is a proportional share support that the home district must provide for that family. So the question was, if a student was out of the district with special needs and they came to us to take a course, would the home district still provide that? And so I think it's important to remember that when a student does this, we are not a school district enrolling them in school. We are a service provider. And we're providing them a service. So their home district is still responsible for the special education needs of those students. So kind of like in other situations, we pay fees to outside agencies or other places. Those home school districts will still be responsible for providing that. We would provide the education and the accommodations in the classroom, but as far as their proportional share and their 30 minutes of specific things that they would get out of them.
Okay.
That's the updates I have. Are there questions we have or follow-ups or things you want us to find out?
Thank you. Comments or questions? No. I have a few questions and I'm sorry, I wasn't calling in. I was not listening. I was frantically getting stuff for my son's apartment. So, so I apologize that you probably went over some of these questions that I have. How are families notified, of this change? Just so that they're able to kind of budget for if they're using ESAs, Mr. Crew?
Thank you, Ms. Pratt, members of the board. First of all, we have a handful of students that would qualify in this year, like less than 10, five-ish, six-ish. So it's a very small handful. So we know who they are. I'm certain we can notify them individually at that point if we need to move forward with this process. I think, and Mr. Hurley can jump in, the harder thing for us is how to notify people who are coming to us. I think it's just something we will advertise, on our website and just make known that you can purchase these things from us. We've never done a broad advertisement for serving homeschool families, and we've never turned them away. So we've just always had a few families that's their choice. I think we're just trying to fit that niche in there. I mean, it is something I suppose we could market to, but we're kind of exploring what that looks like with this as a mechanism. I know, is there anything else you want to add regarding to that?
One of the things we talked about adding is a button on our welcome center. In the welcome center, it says new to bail or a couple other options, find out more. And so one of them is homeschool families looking to partner with the district, and then we put some information in there and kind of have an application in there, not an application, a form that they fill out to let us know they're interested. One of the things we're honestly worried about is trying to convince 25 front offices how to have all the right answers to all the right questions. And so our thought is and hope is that if someone comes in and says, hey, we're a homeschool family, want to know what's available, to say, fill the website, fill out the thing, we can reach out with you, we can work with you, because it is still new and we want to have that information there. So once we have these fees and these programs approved, then we'll be able to link it to that welcome center so people can find out about that.
Got it. Okay, thank you. So this probably is going to answer my second question is I can see like that you can take a middle school course or a high school course, and those are separate from electives. So I'm assuming these are like core subjects. And so I was wondering if there was going to be, do we feel like it's going to impact middle or high school schedules in the sense of, I know at my kids' schools, they will kind of look at, okay, this is what we think is the enrollment on these different courses, especially some advanced courses, they'll offer them every other year because of different desires or whatever, or interest. But so do we feel like that will skew it? But it sounds like it's such a small amount of people that we don't feel like it'll be a problem.
Yes. And there's a caveat that we can only accept if there's space available.
Okay.
And is there anything else to add? Yeah.
No. Okay.
I would say yes. Talk to principals, especially just I think the elective thing is important for middle school. It's just the way that the teaming works. The kids just kind of travel, and so to come for a math class when those kids just left science together, it just really doesn't work out so well. In high school, we can make that happen because first period, third period, they don't lump together. So in the middle school, it will just be electives.
Okay.
But it is important to know that there has to be space available. Right? If there's already 32 kids in the choir, then the airplane's full. If we can say, well, there's space in the middle choir if you'd like to go there, or space in the right Baptist choir, but there's not space in the Methodist choir. So we'll have the ability to say it's full.
Okay. Okay. And then my last question is, I don't know how broadly this has been discussed. Have we had any kind of pushback or feedback at all from homeschooling families?
What I would say is that the first year that this became universal, there wasn't any pushback at all because I don't think there was any accountability from the state. Last year, the state did some audits and they found out that there were students in our system who were part of the ESA. And so they reached out to those families and said, as part of taking the ESA, you signed that you would not enroll in school. So then they came to us and said, hey, what's going on? I was taking art and now you're telling me. We didn't have it set up. So we have as a district the right to say, we're not going to do this. We're not going to participate in this. You signed the thing saying you were going out. We've chosen to let them come in. So we know the people have reached out to us. It's been in like 5 or 6 that got those emails from the state last year that said, hey, you did something you weren't supposed to do. So we're trying to put an avenue that they can do the right thing. And it's been 1 middle school club, an ROTC, 2 kids in band. And it's all been great kids and good parents trying to do the right thing, but somewhere in the 80-page document they signed, they said they couldn't do it. So we're trying to make it happen.
When you homeschool your child, whether that's through an ESA or without that ESA funding, it's really on you, incumbent on the parent to do that education, do the education of what's required of them. What we found out is, in most instances, good parents were trying to they just didn't know. I mean, it wasn't that we got no sense that they're trying to game the system. They just didn't know. And that was more the common piece of the issue. And we didn't know, they were just homeschooled. We didn't have a way to say, we can't check to see if you're an ESA, taking an ESA or not. I think what as a practice we will do, though, is if you come to us as a homeschool student, we will assume that you are an ESA, that you're also taking an ESA, unless you verify with us that you are not. I think that's the shift I think that's happened. We just didn't have a way of collecting anything previously. And if we had a homeschool student, and they were enrolled in a chemistry class, we'd just plug them in for that fractional amount of their ADM and collect those dollars. So.
I think what's interesting, in this discussion, it's like, for me, a shift in supporting a homeschool family traditionally, what we had thought about it in years past versus the ESA program. Now this is different. And like you were saying, we're a service provider. Is that what you said? And so I don't, it's getting in an area that doesn't feel great to me, in the sense of, we're educators, we educate all kids, and so some of that kind of goes against this, but I get it that, that this is how the system is set up, in the sense that these families can't participate in this then. And so I'm understanding it's kind of a shift in thinking.
And I think that's a great point. And I think that we have had a lot of discussions. We've put this together around that, because it can summarize what I'm hearing you say. Also, it can feel transactional versus as a service thing. And we don't want it to feel transactional either. The ESA itself is somewhat transactional by nature, by the way it's set up. You receive the funds, you do a transaction with how you're going to provide your education to your kids. So we have to acknowledge that that's a part of the system, but how do we do that in a way that also says, hey, we're here to serve our community and provide high quality education. And we want, we would like for you to come if you want to come. And how do you participate? What does that look like? So I think we're trying to plow a middle path here between those two things. I think that's where we are. Mesa in particular jumped out pretty quick with this. I think within the first semester of the first year with it. And we watched, and I think part of it, and frankly, Mr. King was at a conference later that first year and also brought some information back, and just felt we needed to watch it a little longer and understand where it was, because it can feel not, for lack of a better term, veil-like to do it this way. But we're kind of here now. And this year, in uncovering with parents who I think we're honestly trying to do the right thing for their kids. And by us not having a system, in some ways, we're even though it's incumbent on them to know what they're signed and what they're responsible for, we were messing them up by not having a secondary system in place too. So if we assume now that all students who come to us as homeschool students are accepting ESAs, which that's frankly a safe assumption, then we can simply plug them into this process. And it should be familiar to them because they're doing that anyways. They're choosing whether to take an elective course with us or buy one online or purchase one from somewhere else anyways. They're choosing to purchase activities for their kids. So it's something that fits within the wheelhouse of what their experience is with crafting the education for their kid.
Any other questions? Yeah, Mr. Fisher.
Are we seeing an increase in last year as far as inquiries from parents, from students, maybe phone inquiries, word of mouth inquiries? Not necessarily that's a committal from anyone, but bottom line, is there interest in the program as a whole?
Thank you, Ms. Pratt, Mr. Buster. I don't know. Short answer is no, not a significant uptick. Is that, yeah. This is just mostly fixing a gap in something that we have. Now, what we do with it moving forward, that's going to be on us to decide how, again, here's what we do for home. I mean, we put it out there. We will support you as homeschool families, and we talk about it, but it's not the leading. We haven't done a promotion for it. It's just more of fits within the values of who we are, that we provide education services to our community. And if you're a homeschool family and you come to us, and we'll figure out a way to work with you. I mean, that's been as long as there's space available. That's been the mindset, and that we want to continue that as a mindset. We just need to adapt to the new reality, I guess, is kind of where that is. That's the current thinking on this. Who knows? This is a space to watch, frankly, as the landscape continues to evolve around ESAs and what's there. And maybe it is something later down the line that we do more promotion around. But right now, it's just getting the structure in place to address those families that do come to us with this and clean that up. But that's the main intent. We can certainly build on this as a foundation, though. I will add, you haven't asked, but I will add, we have, as you can see, just a few categories. I think there's only 7 total. I think Mesa had a page and a half or something like that of services. And we intentionally streamlined that because we just wanted to make it as approachable as possible.
One more question in regards to, so Mesa has been an early adapter. Is there anybody else throughout the country, any other district or state that maybe that you're looking at currently that is doing the same thing, so we can compare apples to apples?
Good question, Mr. Kruth.
Well, Arizona's the Wild West on ESAs, so we are there is no one to look at as far as that in the States. We're the bleeding edge. I know of Mesa. Do you know of anyone else? Yeah. This conversation in many places, many school districts would never happen because they don't want to touch ESAs. There's a distaste for that process. I mean, I have some opinions on ESAs as far as accountability and some of those things, but it's a reality in Arizona, and that's where we are. So, and we've long served families who want a school choice, and that just fits in where we are. So and we've long served homeschool families and valued them. And we have countless examples of homeschool families who've come to us for a class or two, homeschooled their kids for years, come to us for a class or two, and then end up enrolling their kid full-time in our system. I think this allows that same kind of process to play out. And if they do that, then they can simply stop taking their ESA. You asked the question, are we looking to anyone else? There's really no one else to look to other than Mesa.
Thank you.
So, and then just noting that this is starting for the next school year. So we're not starting at this current school year, it's starting the next school year.
We would enact this whenever it is approved.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So if it's approved, our intent is if there's comfort level at the board level that we'll bring it back for action. And if that's the case, then we'll implement it when it's approved. Again, from our standpoint, whether that's the next board meeting in July or October or December, it doesn't really matter to us. We can we would prorate the fees for a certain semester, those kinds of things. It's more just the idea of doing the research and getting behind it and putting the structure in place.
So can I just oversimplify kind of where we're at with this and to make sure that I'm understanding the situation? So right now, families who receive an ESA cannot participate in any of the after-school clubs or sports or courses. This is providing an avenue for them to be able to do this. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Yes, and for Brad, that's an exact situation that happened.
Okay.
Student was enrolled in Cienega, wanted to do ROTC, found out 2 weeks in that they got a letter from the state that said you can't do it, and we had no avenue to say yes.
Okay,
They said, hey, sorry,
You
you
can't.
signed and you can't, and so we don't have a way to allow you to do it.
okay,
It would be double dipping.
right, for the family, not for us.
Correct. Well,
Right.
for, yes, for the state,
For the state, double dipping.
we can't receive pay for something the family is receiving.
Right, okay,
There are lots of, so this is a formal thing that you guys have to approve, and then there are lots of steps that have to happen behind. Mrs. Quiros is learning all kinds of rules and laws about these things. There's a whole class wallet system and what we can spend the money on and where it goes. The tech folks are figuring out how do we enroll them in our school to make it look like they're not enrolled, but they are enrolled, so they'll submit them. So there's lots of pieces that have to happen once it's approved, and we didn't have those pieces in place in the past, so we literally had to just, sorry, you
Can't do it.
can't play sports.
And for clarification point, the class wallet is on the, is the called it a walled garden of services through the state that the parents have to participate in to receive reimbursement for their funds.
got it.
So it's not on, that's not something we would do. We would be a vendor through Class Wallet. That's what that would set up. So we would need to apply as a vendor to Class Wallet, which anybody who receives funds through ESAs would need to do. So our money would come from the state via Class Wallet, which is their walled garden of finances. It was set up between the Treasury and the Department of Ed, versus directly through the state.
Okay, Mr. King, did you have a question? No, you're good. Okay. Okay, I mean, to me, I mean, if you're looking for any kind of opinions or directions from board members, my thought, you know, I said some of this feels uncomfortable, but at the end of the day, to me, I feel like this is harder for the district to be able to do this. There's a lot of work involved for not only our finance, but I'm thinking, you know, after school clubs, they already have to think about tax dollars and how those are funds, you know, how they can use those. Now there's another bucket and rules around that. But in Vail, we never say this is too much work, even though it's good for kids, we're not going to do it. So to me, I just feel like if this is good for kids in our community, it's something that I think I would like to pursue to go down that path. Any other comments, questions? No, okay. This is a study item, so if there's no other comments or questions, then we'll move on. Our next item under old business is RFP 25-003-29 for advanced placement textbook adoption for psychology. This is an action item. Mr. Frith?
Mr. Hurley.
Brett, members of the board, superintendent group, we, Mrs. Quiros and her team do a great job of making sure we do this legal above board, and it's great. So I love that they do that, and I appreciate their help with that. We brought back to you a month or so ago, just a courtesy reminder to the community that this was taking place, that we had placed all of the textbooks on public display, so anyone could come in and have a look at them. And after those 60 days had passed, we had our team come in and they scored the books. They score them on several things. They score them on the content. They score them on the standards. Do they address the AP things? They score them on the ancillary things. What's the test booklets and the discs and all those things? And then after we've received those scores, we also award points for the cost of the book. You're still using taxpayer dollars, so it's $1,000 book, even if it's worth more points. And there's a $100 book out there. It doesn't completely negate it, but is the most points is the category of cost. So we put that in and we come up with a number, and we're bringing with you tonight a recommendation for us to purchase the books that are on here.
And just to add quick, also, Mr. Hurley, we rarely adopt textbooks anymore. So the only time we really do that is around AP for the purpose of advanced placement courses and also language courses. So, yeah.
And so, for Brett, we also, the only reason we bring them back up now is when AP has redone the test or redone the curriculum. So the old books are technically not preparing kids properly for the new assessment. So that they redone the test for this year. So that's why we're doing psychology. So we will only be redoing it as a new test comes available. So the kids have the best equipment possible to help them pass the tests.
So with that, I'll read the recommendation that the Vail School District Governing Board award the contract RFP number 20-003-29 2429 for advanced placement textbook adoptions for psychology as a single award to Bedford Freeman and Worth Publishing Group for the textbooks Myers Psychology for the AP course 4E to include any ancillary materials required as presented.
Thank you. I'll accept a motion. Or do I have a
Motion to
motion?
approve as presented.
Thank you.
Well, second.
Thank you. Comments or questions? Mr. Webster?
How long are we expected? What's the meantime of failure? How long will these last before this comes before the board again?
Clerk Pratt, members of the board, I was at Siena the other day, and they have some math books that came with the building in 2001. So we do the best we can to, luckily algebra has not changed much since 2001, is my understanding, but we keep the books as long as they're still viable. So until the test is redone, which is usually 6 to 8 to 10 years, when there's a major change from the college board, we won't bring it back unless there's a major change.
Any other comments or questions? Mr. King?
Were there any public comments made for any of these books? Was there any concern pressed or anything else?
No. Nope.
Okay, I know I did stop by today and they didn't seem like they'd been opened. So I did take a look at a few of them.
Very good. Any other comments or questions? Not seeing any, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not seeing any, the motion carries. Thank you. We'll move on to new business. Our only our only item, which is an action item, is our 2024-25 adopted district budget. Mr. Cruz.
Mrs. Kudos.
Members of the board, tonight we're presenting to you the same exact budget that we presented on June 25th. For all who have been involved, we started the process of developing the budget in February. We finished up in late April. Since then, during May is when the board approved some restructuring of our benefits and the approval of the new benefit package, and then they approved salary increases, which has wrapped up everything, which is presented in the budget tonight. So.
Do you want to give the recommendation? And then-
Yeah, I'll go ahead and make a recommendation. The Vail School District Governing Board approve and adopt the district's 2024-2025 budget to include the truth in taxation as presented.
Thank you. I'll accept a motion.
Make a motion as presented.
Mr. King?
Seconded.
Mr. Bester, any comments or questions? Mr. Bester?
Ms. Quiros, I have to say, absolutely outstanding. Following this process, essentially cradle to grave, and inevitably trying to keep our district and our schools top rated. The retention of phenomenal talent, and again, that goes to staff as well, but also our facilities. Every piece of the capital improvement projects, cross spectrum, every piece of equipment and materials. It doesn't come easy. It's actually laborious work to make all those pennies rub together on a regular basis and get every mile out of every penny, because these are tax dollars. But keep that same high level of excellence that we do for this district rest on your shoulders, and you've done a phenomenal job. So hats off to you.
Thank you, Mr. Bester. Very well said. Mr. King?
Ms. Kiddos, I'm not sure if this would be germane to the budget, but is the audit issue with Pima County Superintendent of Schools, does that play into this at any point? And if it's not germane, let me know and we'll just move on.
Mr. Cruz?
Mrs. Kudos, yeah.
That activity does not affect what we're doing with our budget, but reconciliation of all of our expenditures does, which has to be in line with our budget.
Yeah.
We are working closely with the Pima County Treasurer's Office and the Pima County School Superintendent's Office to ensure that our
Mr.
Yeah, and we'll continue to provide updates regularly on that process. I'll just say Mrs. Kiros has been a dog on a bone as far as ensuring that follow through is happening as intended.
Thank you for doing that. Thank you. Any other comments or questions? No, I cannot even say as well or even better than Mr. Buster, so thank you so much. I know we've studied this for quite a while, but thank you for all your work on this. So with that, if there's no other comments or questions, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not seeing any of the motion.
Sorry.
Sorry, do you have to do
It's supposed to be a roll call.
roll call? Sorry.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Okay, Allison Pratt,
Aye.
Chris King,
Aye.
Ed Buster.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. Thank you. Our last item is adjournment. So at this time, I'll accept a motion to adjourn at 7:53.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not seeing any. The motion carries. Thank you.